Hi and welcome. I'm Dr. Steve Rissman, and I prepared this lecture for my men's health course at MSU Denver, where I have a men's health program. I hope that it's more than just students in the class. I hope that anybody has a chance to see it. A lot of young men are really needing this information, and so I have amassed a body of understanding, having taught and worked in this field for 30 years, and I'm trying to share this. I'm trying to share this because I care that there are young men out there who are in need of this information. So let's shift the perspective a little bit. And let me share my PowerPoint, and we'll get started. All right. Let me go start at the beginning here. Taking me a second here. All right. No, there we go. We're ready. From hiding to living. Yeah, from hiding to living. Healing the wounds that keep you stuck. That's what we're going to be talking about today. From hiding. Hiding? I'm not hiding. Okay, well, let's talk about that. Let's look. Would you be willing to at least look at ways that you perhaps might be? Because the truth is, we all do. We all do. All hide. We all have behaviors that change. We avoid hard conversations. We avoid things. So we shift our life in various ways. So let's take a look at that. It's a workshop or a lecture which invites you to ask some questions. What wounded me? Wounded me? Nothing wounded me. Again, we all have wounds. We all have things, places where we were maybe shamed, embarrassed, made to feel small. What am I protecting? Protecting? I don't think I'm protecting anything. Are you willing to look? Are you really willing to look? What would happen if I fully stepped into life? And what's my life asking for me now? So the whole premise here, something happened that made hiding safer than living for all of us. It's a choice, unconscious choice, but we choose to hide rather than live. Usually there's some sort of experiential intensity. One-time trauma, maybe, more often, some sort of repeated message of not enoughness, some kind of a shaming message. You're not like other boys. You're not as capable as I'd like you to be. You're not what my dream was when I chose to have a kid, whatever it is. Yeah, those are all provide for some sort of a shaming experience, such that we decided it would be just much easier, much safer to just hide from that rather than come forward. And so why do so many young men feel stuck? The number of young men who are what we would call maybe neat, not employed, not in education, not in training. In Japanese culture, they refer to this as hikikomori. And there are various stages of this. But let's ask ourselves, why might we be stuck, not really moving ahead? What if isolation isn't the problem? That's what we focus on. That's what we as parents and adults focus on on young men, his behavior, but perhaps his behavior, your behavior, maybe it's a signal. Maybe it's not the problem. It's just a signal that there's more to it. And maybe that's how we need to think about this. So we need to look at sort of what the current landscape for boys is. What is this world like for boys? Well, we do see an increased isolation, not engaged, not in education, not employed, not in any sort of training, spending more and more time alone in their rooms, in the basement, on their own. There's an increase of digital immersion. It's just the way it is, which provides for a cognitive, what they call it, cognitive inflexibility, a very real, a very disconnection from real time and stuck in virtual time. Decreased attention spans that come with that, and a need for uh, instant or delayed gratification and certainly delayed independence as a result of some of this. So there's also a prolonged helplessness that happens as a result of this delay in independence. And there's a lack of mentorship. Fathers aren't around perhaps as much as we would like them to be. Not being seen by a father. We'll talk about that. And we also see decreased testosterone. As a result of decreased testosterone, that affects our physiology. So we just sort of stay comfortable. We don't really get out there. When testosterone happens, we move forward. Well, let's not pin it all on testosterone, but certainly that is part of the landscape for boys at this time. And that, just FYI, that decreased testosterone as a result of endocrine disruptors, the environment in which we live. So, what is a basement boy? We hear talk of that, but someone who is withdrawn, disengaged, as I just mentioned, lacking direction or purpose. So it's not only the fact that they're isolated, but there's no sense of purpose, no sense of connection to why am I here? What am I being called to do? There's an avoidance of responsibility. Responsibility is challenging. That's risky. That's way too vulnerable. And so, no thanks. I'll just try to avoid that. Understandable. That's smart if you're trying to protect yourself. There's an over-reliance on comfort. We see this. And this is not meant to shame you. But we just see that there is a sense of, I'm just insulated here. I can entertain myself and be insulated. And that keeps me from growing, but it keeps me also protected. So let's look at that. What else am I missing there? Social withdrawal, endless distractions, lack of direction, as I mentioned, perhaps fear of failure, fear of rejection. Those are things that we see as symptoms of the components of what we might call a basement boy. So it's really important to understand that all boys need nurturance and empowerment. Nurturance more early life, care, we need nurturing throughout our lives, but early on, that strong sense of nurturance. But then at the same time, we develop a sense of independence and a sense of empowerment. And sometimes that gets disrupted. Hang with me here. What we understand is that every avoidance strategy solves a problem. There's a reason why you might be avoiding. You are avoiding. We all avoid. It's a strategy. It's to solve a particular problem. The problem is that strategy keeps us small. That strategy is limiting over a period of time. It's a reactionary, temporary move to gain some safety from that shaming experience, from that wounding, from that uncomfortable feeling. Okay, I can avoid. But the problem is that we have to move through that. So why would a guy choose to game for 12 hours at a time? And as I understand, 12 hours may be a small period of time for some. Why would a guy excessively use pornography? Now, I say that because use of pornography, use of exposure to that kind of stimulation, it's grown exponentially, and so it becomes excessive very quickly. So I think that's quite a subjective question, but we mostly know. We mostly know. How much am I really drawn to that? Am I using pornography? What about isolation? Isolation is avoidance strategy. And all the ways I mentioned earlier about ways we avoid and ways we isolate. Sleep, sleeping long hours, sleeping at irregular hours. It's an avoidance. If I'm sleeping in that world, you can't get me. The world can't get me. I can't feel those feelings that are uncomfortable. Endless YouTube scrolling, Instagram scrolling, Facebook scrolling, whatever it is, scrolling, constant. Why? Part of it is a behavior. It's easy to find yourself, 20 minutes later having going, what am I doing here? But the truth is, it's a substitute. It solves a problem. The question is often, why don't you change, right? You can hear this from your parents. You hear it from people that oversee you. Why are you scrolling? Why are you not getting a job? Why are you? They focus on that behavior. Why don't you change your behavior? Right? Moms focus on it a lot. Dads don't. Sometimes will distance themselves, not sure what to do. Sometimes it brings up uncomfortable feelings for themselves because they have some of their own stuff that they have to deal with. And so moms oftentimes ask the question. But the more important understanding approach is What pain is this helping you to avoid? What pain are these behaviors helping you to avoid? Nobody asks that question. They just want you to change your behavior. What's the pain underneath? What is the problem underneath that this is helping us to temporarily solve? Let's look at our parents, okay? What's mom? In the beginning, what needs does she fulfill? You can probably come up with the fact that there's nurturance, nourishment, certainly, at least in the womb, possibly in terms of breastfeeding and some, feeding us in some way, place of safety and comfort, being held close to them, soothing, reassurance. We have to have touch. The studies about, the babies that were not touched, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 years ago. I don't remember when the studies were, but those babies did not thrive. We need warmth, housing in terms of that uterus, etc. That was the mother's role. Safety, a place to come back to. We go out and explore the world. I'll talk about that in just a moment, but we come back to a place of safety. There are many theories that talk about the two kinds of wounds that we suffer from mother. Too much and not enough. Too much transgression of the boundaries. And sometimes a lot of guys will feel that right now. I'm just trying to protect myself. I'm just trying to be in my space. And here you are nagging, transgressing my boundaries and nagging at me to get a job. Why don't you just, they focus on our behavior. Too much, mom. The boy develops a sense of powerlessness. Mom takes care of everything. Mom does my laundry, so I don't have to do laundry. Mom calls the doctor, so I don't have to do that. Mom does X, Y, or Z, so I don't have to do any of that. Mom makes the dinner. Too much mother. There's oftentimes an avoidance of intimacy for fear of boundary violation. Oftentimes, young men won't get involved in relationships because they'll feel that level of transgression and they'll fear that. Too little mother, too much boundary. Mothers, get away from me. When the child just needed something, mother that was, not available. So there's a sense of abandonment then, and not a trust that there's somebody there for them. Boy develops a sense of insecurity and may search for mother in other places later in life. Perhaps we look for that in our partner, look for that in other relationships. Some of that's normal, but it can be excessive. It can be a role that our partner may or may not want to play. So ask yourself, which way did the scale tip in your own experience with your mother? What about the primary female influence in your life? How about the role of father? What is the role of father? This Petrus Monach, that's a painting by Picasso. I love it. Look at the strong jawline and the strong angles here. This, very masculine figure, like providing, suggesting that role of father, someone who guides. Father's role is a little bit later, taking the boy out into the world, introducing him to the world, guiding him, not controlling, guiding towards more life, an adventurous life. You can anticipate, well, what would happen if we didn't have that? We'll get there. someone to model strength and integrity, as well as to model strength when we fall, strength in weakness. In other words, we are going to be weak. We are going to fail. How do we do that? How do we fail? Fathers need to show us. How do you fail? But fathers are really, an insecure father who doesn't want his son to see that. So he hides that. Oh man, no access. Challenge. He provides challenge. Hey, let's go do something that's challenging with support. He teaches how do you navigate difficulty so that you gain a sense of resilience. Someone to see his son, his strength, his fiber, his thalos. Ooh, what does that mean? We'll talk about that in my course. That's that sacred masculine energy. So with a lack of father, there is no roadmap. What we see everywhere right now is, well, what defines a man? What is what is a sense of purpose? What is a sense of direction? So many young men don't have this. So many men don't have this. Why? Lack of father. And I mean father complex here. Okay? An emotional role can be played by anybody, but there's a sense of somebody who was there, who was that guide. No roadmap without that. Not being seen. I can't tell you the number of young men desperate to be seen, desperate for somebody to see them, to see their strength, to see that they are something, to see anything in them. With a lack of father, we have no confidence, never learned that they could handle life. Nobody ever saw them, their ability to handle life. And a disconnection without that father, leading to a sense of aloneness. What about too much father? So imagine trees in a forest, and there's one dominant tree that takes all the sunlight, and the other trees struggle to get any sunlight. And as we know, for a plant, sunlight is how they photosynthesize and gain energy. Overshadowing by a very larger than life father doesn't allow the boy to rise. He needs the light on him, not just his father. Anybody can relate to that? This is Plotkin's wheel. We talk about this in my class. I'll talk about it a little bit here, but I do a series of lectures on this. This is Bill Plotkin's work from his book, Nature and the Human Soul, where he looked at cultures throughout the world and their understanding of the cycle of life. And he created this, where we're born in the East here, in this early stage where we're just innocent. We're of the mother. We learn separation, and in developing separation, we develop a sense of self because we recognize there is an other. Somebody puts us down, And then they come back. Oh, that somebody is different from me. So I develop a sense of I as a result of the fact that that there is an other, and that is a very there's a goal here at this early stage, which is the development of ego with innocence, no violation of innocence, no shaming, but just a real sense of innocence. Think about that. How do boys early on get shamed? We'll have conversations about this, but it's worth looking at. And without that, the next stage is that explorer, the explorer in the garden. The boy starts to walk away from mom and explore rocks and sticks and falling down and whatever. And he comes running back to mom, safety, nurturance, all appropriate, right? Where might that have been violated? Was he allowed to wander? Did he have free time? Was he too helicoptered? Oh no, you can't go outside. Oh no, that don't get dirty. Don't fall down. Was he encouraged to play? Were you encouraged to play? Were you encouraged to be out in nature? Were you encouraged to look at the sky? That cool Perseid meteor shower, I think, is tomorrow. And the alignment of 6 planets. Wonderment. Were you encouraged for that? Were you encouraged to explore someplace new? The next stage is what we call the thespian, the actor. That's where we try on. Were you able? Were you encouraged to try on various parts of yourself? Maybe you're more of a sports kid, or more of an art kid. Maybe you're more of a uh, music kid. Maybe you're more of a, I don't know. Were you encouraged to try on some of these things? And I mean, just try them on. I don't mean commit to it. I mean, were you able to try it on, or were you shamed? Oh no, you're not going to be able to do that. Oh no, you can't do that. Important to develop a sense of, well, if I try a few things on, then I'll kind of have an idea of what fits. And then that 4th stage over here, the last stage of boyhood, that wandering away from the family, going off to college, going off to wherever, to question how you were raised, to question the beliefs of your family, your community. Do you have the courage to question your parents and to go your own way in life, to wander and explore? That's what college is all about, right? You wander into a lecture and go, wow, that blows me away. Never thought of this before. Never heard of any of this thing. To wander into conversation with somebody who looks different than you. And ask yourself some questions. That's wandering. That's wandering. There's a need to say goodbye to the old identity, to boyhood, to prepare for that new. That's the whole purpose there, so that we can become that next stage, the young man. We'll talk about that. I'm not going to talk so much about that today, but you can see how along the way, if those were violated, those are going to cause a little bit of a problem and possibly causing us to regress. At some point, a shift happens that moves us from a desire for comfort to a place of challenge. I don't know. This can be a little bit difficult, but I know that that's what I'm being called for. I know I'm going to try it. I'm going to see can I do this? Is that a possibility for me? I had a little boy yesterday here at the farm who, I said, "You want to get on my horse?" And could I? There was a son that was a healthy kid versus, I don't know, might look stupid. I might not know what to do. I want to try. From dependence, somebody take care of me, somebody meet my needs, to a sense of I can do this, sense of autonomy, from being held, and not only just, like as a baby being held, but to being scaffolded, to standing on one's own. When that shift doesn't happen, something subtle occurs. Confidence kind of starts to stall. We see this. I ask the young men, the families of the young men that I work with all the time. It's oftentimes in junior high, he was great. He did great. He was such a happy kid, blah, blah, blah. And it happened in junior high. Suddenly things changed. Yeah. This coincides with that development, those developmental tasks. One's direction fades. I was so excited. I really thought and wanted to be a pilot. I was so excited to fly and well, I'm not sure. It's a little too scary. Energy gets stuck. And as I said, kind of regressing to an earlier stage instead of exploring with peers or wandering, we kind of regress back into, I think I'm just safe here. Something happened. There's a reason why. Let's see if we can figure this out. What happens oftentimes is the boy wants to kind of be the flying boy, never really wants to land. Peter Pan, right? Want to be the eternal boy. Never wanted to embrace limitations. Never wanted to be bored. I tell my son, boredom is the path to enlightenment. I'm bored. Yeah, that's great. Because now you got to get creative, right? When you're bored, because you find your way out of it. If you have confidence, if you have a little bit of resilience, and if you don't, there's probably a wounding. I ask you, what story do you tell yourself? Which story runs your life? I'm not enough. That message that you got, inadequacy, it's a big one for most men. Not measuring up. I don't think I'm going to be able to measure up. I don't think I'm going to be as good. I don't think I'm going to have everything that the everything that's supposed to make me great. I'm not going to be enough. Or do you tell the story, nothing matters? More of a nihilistic approach. The heck with all of it. It's a symptom. It's a symptom of the story. It's a story we're telling ourselves. Why? To protect ourselves. Nobody understands me. Nobody understands me is a story we tell ourselves that protects us. It's too late. Yeah, it's too late. That's just a story. At my stage of life, there's more adventure. There's more adventure out there. It's not too late. Every man enters an encountering. He encounters a threshold, a crossing of sorts. Uh, a Joseph Campbell said that every man encounters a chasm, a gap. He said, jump. It's not as far as you think. Perhaps it's meeting someone, a teacher, a mentor. Perhaps it's an illness. There's a challenge. There's an invitation. If we're awake, if we're awake and listening, it's an opportunity for a crossing. It might even be a rock bottom, maybe a desolate situation. It's an invitation. It's a call. It's a call. As I say here, perhaps it's an invitation for growth. It's not something bad that happened. That's how oftentimes we reinterpret it. Something bad happened to me. Is that the case? Or did you just get an invitation for growth? Illness is the fantastic. You can't find a better teacher than illness. We can learn a lot from it. Are you willing? Are you willing to answer the call of something difficult, of having to navigate something challenging? In other words, it's a shift. But what's the cost of not answering the call? What's the cost to your relationships or a lack of relationship? Lack of confidence? What's the cost to your health of not answering the call, of just staying in an isolated little area? Or compensating by making your body look a certain way? That's a way of hiding as well, hiding behind the mask of look at my muscles, look at my perfect face that I've chiseled and blah 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 blah, all those things. Looks maxing is the same kind of deal. It's not answering the call to a truth. It's providing a facade. It's wearing the armor. What's the cost to your friendships when you want to stay small? What's the cost to your sense of adventure? What's the cost of not listening to the call of your purpose? Why am I here? I maybe I'm not listening. Maybe I'm distracting, numbing myself from being able to hear that. What is the cost in terms of love in my life? In terms of freedom, the delusion is that I'm free. If I'm here in my room and you're not bothering me, I'm not interacting, I'm free. Is that true? Or are you tethered because you are too afraid? Because it's really scary. And I know that shame is awful and scary. And we invest a lot of energy into, I'm never going to experience that again. So here's what I'm going to do. I get it. And I'm saying, answer the call. Your life is calling. So if nothing changes, Where are you going to be in 5 years? Going to magically happen? Going to win the lottery? Good luck. I hope you do. Maybe all those people that have unsuccessful lives after they win. Um, but if nothing changes, where are you going to be? Same place. Same place, right? So healing the wound, that's the invitation, is to say, this is really painful, but I'm going to look. Bruce Tiff talks about this in his work. He says that with an experiential intensity, some sort of a shaming, some sort of a trauma, what happens is we take that energy. You've heard, some of you have heard me explain this before. We take that and we put it in our hand and we put it as far away from ourselves as possible. And we say, I'm going to live my life making sure, and this is an unconscious thing, obviously, ensure that I never experience that again. And then we end up living our life. So life spins around this thing, tethered to it. What's the answer? Over time, when we are strong, it's a solution. It's a temporary solution. Get rid of it, put it out here so I don't have to feel it. But over time, we realize there's a part of ourselves that's split off. We're not whole. And we realize we're strong enough and we get a call. Could I look and see what it is? Oh, it's painful. Yep. But it's just a story. It's just a story. And with help, we can look. That's healing our wound, which requires honesty. What hurts and what am I avoiding? That one time when somebody said, and I felt embarrassed and not enough. I got repeated messages that I wasn't good enough, that I was whatever. Honesty. Connection. The opposite of addiction. Addiction is a way of avoiding. The opposite of addiction is connection. Healing happens in relationship with others. It does not happen in isolation. No man is an island. We're all affected by what happens around us. And the third is purpose. We must have a sense of purpose because purpose pulls us forward. When our motivation disappears, when we have a day and we just think, I think I'll just, and purpose pulls you forward and says, no, no, I need you. You've got gifts and I need you. So imagine yourself at 35. If you're 35 now, imagine yourself at 45. You're healthy. Make good choices in terms of your diet. Got a strong enough body to be able to carry you. You're confident, engaged. You got things you're involved with. Connected with other people. You have a relationship. Now ask yourself, imagine you're that 35-year-old. What does he want your current self to know? What's he want you to know? It's not your fault. Just take a step. You can do this. You're worth it. What does your current self, what does Batman want your current self to know? One courageous step. It's not about this huge transformation that has to happen. It starts with one step. What could you do this week? Call someone? Apply for a job? Applying for a job is so hard, especially for people who have experienced shame, because it feels like a rejection. It's one of the hardest things that there is to do. Give it a try. Give it a go. Spend an hour outside in nature. That perceived meteor shower tomorrow night. Get a sense of who I am beyond me, beyond my skin, but I'm connected to something much more grand. Go to the art museum. Delete one numbing habit for 24 hours. One of those habits that you think, I don't know, or that you justify. I don't do it that much. Give it up for 24 hours. Give up YouTube for 24 hours. What about having that hard conversation that you've been avoiding? And what about just laughing? Laughing with someone else, especially. It's a courageous step. I'm going to end here with a poem that I had a copy of on a piece of paper no bigger than this very size. And on that little piece of paper was this poem. Come to the edge. We might fall. Come to the edge. It's too high. Come to the edge. And they came. And he pushed. And they flew. Please, reach out. I'm here. If you want to talk. My phone number is there. Please text me or if you want to talk, that's fine too. And there's my email, srisman@msudenver.edu. Thanks.